I wanted to talk to you about something else, because it was interesting. I was reading Football 365, who listed the top 5 net spenders of the last 5 years. And I think you could pretty much guess Manchester City's there, PSG, Manchester United. But 4th, though, AC Milan, which really struck me, considering this is a side that hasn't been in the Champions League since 2013. I want to welcome back to the show Gab Marcotti as well to the conversation. But Charlie, I want to start with you. These are striking figures.
Yeah, it really is. And as a lifelong Milan fan, Gab's a lifelong Inter fan, so he feels much better about this. I think what hits you is that they've spent a lot without being able to sell these guys onwards. And, you know, the club to me that's done a great job with this, maybe because they own about 100 players, is Chelsea. And they were able to capitalize when the market, you know, was good in China. And so they were able to sell some players for, you know, high profits in China. It seems like the AC Milan players they've gotten haven't really panned out, and they have to give them up for, you know, for nothing compared to what they paid for them. And to me, that seems to be the real problem they're faced with.
Gab, how have they got it so wrong?
Well, I mean, I think that there's a number of things going on. I mean, you know, they've had 3 different owners in those 5 years. And, you know, you look at the tail end of the Berlusconi-Galliani regime, you know, they were thinking of getting out. They spent money, but they didn't necessarily have that clear idea. In between, you had the disastrous Lee Yong-hong, Marco Fassone era, where, you know, they were just chucking money around left, right, and center. Right? And again, one bad decision after another. I think a lot of question marks. And, you know, these new owners that are in now, Elliott Management, they've got very clear ideas about how they want to turn things around. They've inherited, though, a very, very difficult position. I think a lot of the damage was done under the previous owners, under Lee Yong-hong, where they said, all right, we're way into a hole. We want to bring the club back. Let's invest a ton of money, hope that we go on and win the league and you know, qualify for the Champions League. And so we'll make up for it with the revenues on the other end. And, you know, when that doesn't happen, you dig yourself into an even bigger hole. And that's kind of what part of the reason why Milan are in the situation they're in now.
Charlie, we asked Gab to give the top 5 worst transfers during that period. Carlos Bacca at 5, Higuain at 4th, Piatek comes in at 3, Biglia at 2, Lucas Paqueta at number 1, signing for almost 40 million euros. Do you agree with that? Paqueta was the worst of them all?
Yeah, I think so. At least where we see now, where he is right now in the pecking order, if you will. And you know, I don't know what's going to happen to the transfer market. I don't think any of us know whether it's going to collapse or what. But no one thinks it's going to spring back and we're going to see crazy numbers. So to get rid of these guys, it seems like they're always selling them on for a loss. And you know, they have to get it right to at least get into the Champions League, and that's where the money is. And yeah, I mean, it's not a mystery, and it's a team that has a lot of decent players, but I like to say a lot of players that are all pretty much the same. They're about the same quality. You see, even a guy like Ibrahimovic at 38 years old changes the whole dynamic of the team because of the quality of player that he is. And that, you know, in the old days, you'd get 20-year-old guys and 22-year-old guys and 26-year-old guys coming in at AC Milan that were that caliber. Not when they're 38. I mean, when they had Ibra the first time, he was 30 years old, and that was sort of the perfect Ibra. Now, even though he isn't as good as he was when he's 30, he still helps because he is a player of, let's say, significant magnitude. He really is. He makes a difference.
Gab, is there any light at the end of the tunnel for AC Milan fans like Charlie?
I mean, look, it's going to be a slow, painful step out of it because in a financial fair play era, you pay for past mistakes. And Charlie said something before that it's absolutely critical, and I totally agree with. He mentioned Chelsea, but it's critical that you sell well. And some people might point to Carlos Bacca and say, well, he scored a fair few goals. You know, why do you have him on the list? Well, they didn't sell him well. You know, basically, they ended up giving him away in exchange for effectively Samu Castillejo. You have to be smart in terms of the deals that you sign and the contracts you sign players with. Lucas Biglia is on an enormous contract. They signed him when he was 31. It was obvious they were never going to get the resale value, and now you're stuck with him, and you're stuck with people like Çalhanoğlu and guys nobody wants. And what they have promised is they're going to go and they're going to be much more numbers oriented and look for value. You saw a little bit the guys they signed last year, Theo Hernandez, Benacer. Those guys are players. Those guys are young. They have resale value. They can do a job for you now. Frank Kessie, arguably, if he regains his mojo. I think you can build around that, but you have to be smart in the way you do it. And unfortunately, they're inheriting some really big contracts. Some very, if you'd asked me the 5 stupidest moves, I would have put Donnarumma's contract in there because he makes an enormous amount of money. And even though he's a phenomenal goalkeeper, he's now 12 months away from becoming a free agent. And of course, his agent is Mino Raiola, which nobody wants to deal with. So, it's going to be difficult. But I do think you do see baby steps in the right direction. The key now is following through.
Yeah, I think that I just want to pick up on what Gab says. I mean, you really need to understand that this administration, if you will, under Ivan Gazidis and the Elliott Group, and still Paolo Maldini, thankfully, is a group that has inherited a lot of the problems. And I really have faith in this group that they're going to be able to, to right the ship, if you will. But it's sort of where Inter Milan was 5-6 years ago. The difference is that Suning, being a retail giant, they can, let's just be honest, they can manipulate financial fair play. They can take some of the retail clout and bring it into the sponsorship side of the club, as many of these clubs have done. AC Milan with Elliott doesn't have that opportunity. So it's going to be a little harder, but they do have a solid financial backing. And if they start making some, as Gab pointed out, some really good, good solid moves, then I think they're going to be okay. But it's going to take more time than I think any of us had dreamed of.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week, subscribe to ESPN+.